It had been a long drive through winding roads, but when Emily finally arrived at Ravenswood, the town appeared as unsettling as the rumors said. The fog rolled in thick, casting an eerie silence over the small, abandoned-looking streets. The only sound was the soft crunch of gravel underfoot. Emily didn't know much about the town, just that it had a history of strange occurrences, and she needed to stay the night. Emily walked into the Ravenswood Inn, its exterior battered by time. The inside was just as dilapidated, with creaky wooden floors and dim lighting. The receptionist, an elderly woman with a hollow stare, handed her a key without saying a word. "Room 7, she muttered. Emily hesitated but nodded, taking the key, feeling the weight of something she couldn't name pressing against her chest. That night, after unpacking her bags, Emily lay on the bed in room 7. She had just closed her eyes when she heard it. A faint scratching sound, like something tapping against the window. She hesitated before getting up to investigate, but the window was locked and nothing was there. A shiver crawled up her spine as she tried to dismiss it as just the wind, though the silence that followed felt even more suffocating. Unable to sleep, Emily decided to step out of her room. The hallway was long and dark, lit only by flickering lights. She noticed a shadow moving swiftly across the wall at the far end. Her heart raced. She called out, but no one responded. Slowly, she crept closer, but when she turned the corner, the shadow was gone. The air felt heavier now, like the building itself was holding its breath. The next morning, Emily decided to take a shower to shake off the unsettling feeling. As the steam filled the bathroom, she wiped the fog from the mirror. To her horror, a message was scrawled across it. "Leave before midnight." Her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't written it, and the message wasn't there before. Panic began to seep into her thoughts. Who else was in this place? That afternoon, Emily met the innkeeper in the lobby. She was cleaning the counter when Emily approached her. "You have to leave," the innkeeper said softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It's not safe here." Emily tried to ask why, but the woman grew agitated, muttering something about the darkness that had taken over the town. "No one who stays past midnight ever leaves," she whispered, before quickly retreating into the back. As night approached, Emily gathered her belongings ready to leave. But when she stepped outside, the streetlights flickered one by one until the town was plunged into complete darkness. She froze. The feeling of being watched gripped her. Panic surged and she rushed back inside, locking the door. But the darkness outside felt like it was creeping closer, closing in on her. Around midnight, Emily sat at the window, listening to the silence. Suddenly she heard whispers. Faint at first, but they grew louder. The voices seemed to be coming from the walls, murmuring words she couldn't quite make out. They seemed to come closer, until Emily could almost feel the breath of someone right behind her. She turned around, but the room was empty, except for the heavy weight of something unseen. The whispers turned into laughter. Terrified, Emily rushed to the mirror to check if something was behind her, but her reflection wasn't quite right. It grinned back at her, a sinister expression she hadn't made. The reflection moved, as if it had a life of its own. Emily backed away, but the mirror seemed to follow her, its surface rippling like water, distorting everything she saw. Emily bolted from the room, heart pounding. The door to the inn was locked and she pounded against it, screaming for help. Suddenly, the door creaked open, revealing the innkeeper standing in the doorway, her face twisted in sorrow. "I warned you," she said quietly. "No one escapes after midnight." Emily pushed past her and ran into the fog. But as she reached the edge of town, the fog swallowed her whole, and the shadows began to close in again.